Hi, my name is... Yo, hi, what? Hi, my name's Dustin, and I'm the host of the Rewatch Recap, a show where a guest and I will rewatch a show that we loved from back in the day and just see how it holds up, and maybe make fun of it along the way. With episodes like MTV's Scream, Season 1, with Oraline from Spooky and Strange.
But no one in this town does their jobs. He or she or they, we don't know who it is.
And the entire series of My So-Called Life. With Kay from Fuck My Work Life.
She doesn't want to blend in. She wants to be noticed. Wait, what are we talking about here?
And more to come in 2023. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at The Rewatch Recap, and me personally on TikTok at Dustin_Holden, where you'll find all of the Rewatch Recap parodies of My So-Called Life and more to come. Hope you'll watch along with us. Make sure you tune in to The Rewatch Recap every Monday, wherever podcasts are played.
Hey fuckers, it's Kay. Unfortunately, there's not going to be a new episode this week thanks to the holidays and illness hitting the Fuck My Work Life household. Even the recording of this is going to sound like shit because I'm doing it on my phone because we don't have the energy to pull out our podcasting equipment. But instead of a episode from us, we are doing a feed drop of the Rewatch Recap. So I have been co-hosting this with my friend Dustin Holden. It's his show where he recaps TV shows. The first season, he did MTV's Scream with his friend Oraline. And this time around, Dustin and I are recapping every episode of My So-Called Life. So anyone of a certain age is going to remember that show, hopefully fondly. So give this first episode a listen and check out the rest of the Rewatch Recap. And we'll have a new episode for you next week. Bye, fuckers.
What's up, rewatchers? It's Dustin here to let you know that this show may feature strong or inappropriate language, so don't be blasting it over the speakers at school or at work or some other public place that has people with sticks at their butts, okay? I'm assuming if you're listening, you've at least watched the show or the episode we will be discussing. If not, just be warned, there are spoilers ahead. But really, it's your fault because these shows have been out for a while. Enjoy!
Have you ever, wondered what it would be like for people to listen to your inner thoughts? It's, terrifying and thrilling at the same time. It seems I'm plagued by indecision the older I get, even though in my heart, I'm still a teenager just trying to figure out life. Or something.
Okay, welcome to the Rewatch Recap. I am Dustin of Dustin Can Read and Watch, and here with me today is Kay from Fuck My Work Life podcast. How is everything going on today, Kay?
Everything is good so far. I got my strawberry beer. I'm ready to go.
I almost was going to drink it. I'm like, I don't know. I don't have anything. I didn't get anything. I was kind of lazy and forgot. So I'm just drinking water because that's kind of what Angela would drink, I guess.
True.
She would. She does drink in this episode, but, she's not a drinker, really. Anyway, so yeah, we're watching My So-Called Life, the short-lived series from ABC from 1994 to early 1995. And we're going to recap each episode one by one, and which is basically the point of the show. Have a guest and me recap a show that we've already watched before and see how it affects us now and how we like it now. And maybe if the same jokes or same drama falls the same way it did the first time we watched it.
Yeah.
I think it'd be really fun. I like to revisit old things and things that I love, and I love My So-Called Life. I think pretty much every time somebody asks me, what's your favorite TV show? The first thing that comes to life is My So-Called Life.
Yeah.
Always. I don't know what it is, but it might not be my favorite now, but it still is like the first, like the gut reaction I give. I'm like, this is the first one I would say is my, it shaped my view of how TV should be, I think, a lot
Right.
of times.
Mm-hmm.
But I digress. So let's talk about My So-Called Life a little bit. Like I said, it came out in 1994. And did you see it live when it was on ABC, or did you watch it later?
No, I watched it. I watched it live when it was on, and I waited every week for the next episode. I was invested from the very first episode.
How old were you when
I
this
was
came out?
15, so
You were 15.
I was Angela Chase. We were living our teenage years together, so it was very, very. It still means like a lot to me. Like you said, people ask you your favorite show. It's like My So-Called Life. Like this was probably one of the first shows that really, really touched, or hit home base for me, or however you want to put it. Because, we'll get into it, but like it really showed how I feel teenagers feel and act at that age. Just kind of awkward, and everything is dramatic, and
Oh, totally. Oh my gosh. So that's what drew you to it mainly. It was like, just because it was, I would say the same thing. I was 13 and so I'm only a couple of years younger, no big deal. And for me, I had just come to terms with being gay and felt really, and this is the 90s, guys. This is not nowadays where Gen Z is like, I'm gay in high school, and it's somewhat okay. I'm sure there's still bullying and stuff that goes on. Obviously there is, but it's a little bit different over 30 years ago.
Right.
God, it was 30 years ago.
Jesus.
I just thought about that.
I'm going to go cry.
But like, I had only started to come out to myself like earlier the same year, and only came out to a couple of friends at this point. And so, I was still going through it. And this was right before my 8th grade year is when this came out. I saw a promo for it on Entertainment Tonight with Claire Danes and AJ Langer. And they're rolling around. I think it was on Santa Monica Pier, I believe. And like, hey, watch our show. And they had this little promo for it, and I was like, oh, that looks interesting. It was going to be the next night that it premiered. And I was like, let's watch it. So it came on, and I tuned in and was hooked from the first episode, just automatically. Same reason that you said. It was just felt real. It was just true to life. And I loved it. I loved it so much. And I'm so glad. I don't know why, but I felt seen in a way, like I was like, oh my God, this spoke to me so much. Like I was like, this is me. I didn't go through all these things but I felt like I had, or that I would, so yeah, that's, I wanted to be Angela so bad. I used to try to dress like her. I did. Because she wore like tomboyish. She wore flannel. Right. She wore, all that stuff, and overalls. And when I would dress like her in a way, and I didn't I didn't dye my hair crimson glow.
It's not red. It's crimson glow.
It's crimson glow, and I didn't dye my hair. I did at one point, but I went to a professional and had it done.
Yeah. See the color of my hair right now.
Yeah. It is a little bit like that. I think it's a little more, I don't know. What would you call it? I don't know if it's crimson glow. What would you call your hair? Yeah.
I don't know. It's like it's a more subtle crimson glow. It's when I first, because this has been like almost 6 weeks, it's kind of faded a bit. When I first do it, it's very similar to Angela's crimson glow, but it fades real quick. So
well, just to introduce you guys to Kay and her podcast, Fuck My Work Life. It is a show about basically work life stories and going through the motions of being an adult and having a job.
Yeah.
And all the characters you encounter and the stupid situations you encounter and stuff, basically, right? Wouldn't you say that? It's you and your husband, Jay.
Yeah, we get so many diverse stories. It's not just us bitching about work, right? Like we really try to focus on either having guests on that tell their work stories, or we have people write in and tell their work stories, and kind of sharing all the different crazy work experiences people have. A lot of them, for some reason, center around poop. I don't know why. We get a lot of those stories.
Shit's funny.
I guess that just, comes up a lot at work. I don't know why, but yeah. But we have a lot of really crazy stories, and it's been it's been a lot of fun, and it is kind of a way for people to be like, if they had a really crappy day at work, they can listen to one of our episodes and be like, that person may have it worse and maybe feel a little bit better. So,
well, I don't know if this will be out by the time you have a new season started. It probably will be, I'm sure. But if not, still check out the backlog. I've been in I've been in an episode, and they used one of my voicemail basically for another one.
Mhm.
And they've actually been on my show for the Dustin Can Read and Watch. We did Dustin Checks In. And so you can hear J and K on that too, just kind of getting real and talking about life in general, and basically how their show goes anyway. But
Yeah.
it's a fun little time. It's a fun time. Feeling a little awkward. I don't know why. It's weird.
Isn't that weird how that hits you sometimes? Or
You're just like, what am I? I'm rambling. Hi. How are you doing?
Fine.
I have no idea what the fuck I'm saying. By the way, we will curse on this show if you haven't heard it already.
Oh.
We might curse, we might drink, we might do a little dance for you. We don't know. We'll see how it goes. Okay, back to My So-Called Life. So before we begin, I want to give you a little bit of My So-Called Life trivia. It did premiere on August 25th, 1994 at 8/7 Central on the American Broadcasting Network, and which is ABC. But a month later, by the way, on September 22nd, Friends premiered in the same freaking time slot on NBC.
Oh. Is that what killed it?
Pretty much.
Oh.
Must-see TV on NBC is what killed My So-Called Life.
That
And
sucks.
ABC was not willing to move the time slot. I don't know why, but whatever. The school, they shot a lot of stuff in a real school.
Okay.
It's a real school in California, University High School. And they did it while school was in session, apparently. I found this out through several articles. I can't really just cite one article. It's through several. I kept like, well, this is the same information on every article I read. Like they would move classes and students to another part of the school while they filmed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Like, well, crap. Why didn't you just do it on the weekends or
Right?
or at the industry? I don't know. Lighting, you could do a lot with lighting, guys.
Yeah.
You can make it look like it's daytime. You could do it at night. I don't know, but whatever.
There was probably laws, though, because a lot of the people playing teenagers were actually teenagers, so
That's
I'm
true.
sure there were
That is true.
certain laws as to like when they could film or whatever.
Yeah, I don't doubt. Yeah, it is California too, and they're very much
We like our laws.
Yeah, and entertainment law especially.
Yeah.
But and also creator. This might something you might not know. Creator Winnie Holtzman.
Mhm.
She worked on a lot of shows, but what a lot of people don't know is that she wrote the book for Wicked on Broadway.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah. So when I found that, I was like, what the crap? This is before I saw the show. And I had read the actual book Wicked. And then I went and saw the musical, the Broadway musical, which when it came to our town. And I was a little disappointed in it, quite frankly.
Mhm.
I don't know if you've ever seen it.
I haven't. No.
They changed the ending. And the ending of Wicked, the book, matches more to what happens in actual Wizard of Oz. And, but they changed it for the musical. And I don't want to tell you in case you do see it. But I'm hoping that maybe when they do this movie that's supposed to be coming out with Ariana Grande, and I hope that they change it back or make it more, or at least resemble closer to what the original, Wizard of Oz book and movie with Judy Garland, how it ended. So I don't know. We'll see. But back to this. So Claire Danes, like you said, she was 15 when they filmed the series. I think she might have been 14 when they did the pilot.
Yeah.
Like just almost 15, when they filmed the pilot. But she almost was not Angela. The original person they almost cast as Angela was Alicia Silverstone.
Ooh.
I know. But she was deemed too pretty to be an insecure teenager, which I agree with that.
Yeah.
How are you gonna be insecure? You're so cute.
Yeah, you're freaking Alicia Silverstone.
Claire Danes is attractive and she's cute in her own way, but she looks like somebody who's going to grow into their looks type of person.
Yeah.
Who's attractive but not like hot or anything like that.
Right.
And Alicia Silverstone just a couple of years later did Clueless, so you knew what she looked like. Actually, at this time she was doing the Aerosmith music videos, I think. So you knew what she looked like. She was in The Crush with Carrie Ells, and you're like, yeah, I don't see her as Angela at all. But it's interesting.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, say, go ahead.
I was going to say it would be a completely different show, I think, without Claire Danes.
I know. I don't know. I see Cher Horowitz narrating it. First, I do my normal thing. I get up and I pick up my school clothes.
Yeah. As if.
As if, because they say like a lot in the show.
Yeah.
And they say or something a lot.
Yeah.
There was a lot of stuff they would say over and over. But if you think about it, that's how people talk. They usually have these little idioms, these little things that they say in a certain area. They'll say the same things over and over. And, I say, all the time. So this is something I do. I can't help it.
I say yeah a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nah, yeah. At this time, also, Jared Leto was 22. And being a 15-year-old's love interest is kind of, that's 7 years difference. That's yeah. He almost didn't show up in the show either. He almost went to art school instead of taking the part, but he ended up taking it anyway. I don't know why. I didn't read too much about it, but.
Was this his first acting role?
No, I think he had done like 2 or 3 other things before this, probably small parts, one-liners or something like that, I'm sure. But this was the first big break. Obviously, he got big from this. Everybody knew him after that. And he didn't do a lot after this. He did mostly his band stuff. He was in bit parts. I think it was in Requiem for a Dream and stuff like that. But that was more like indie in a way. It wasn't like a big blockbuster movie. Wilson Cruz, who plays Ricky Vasquez, turns out that Ricky was the first openly gay teenage role on broadcast TV, which is a really big deal.
Yeah. It's a huge deal.
It is a very, very big deal. And, it was really something. It was awesome because you could connect with that character so easily. Even though he was a gay character, and even if you weren't gay or queer or bi or whatever, you still connected with him because he had a relatable story. Being, Latino, being, from a broken home, all that kind of stuff. So he had such a good storyline. Which I still love Wilson Cruz, and Wilson Cruz now is on Star Trek Discovery.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he and Anthony Rapp played the first gay Star Trek couple.
Aw.
Yeah,
he's breaking all the boundaries.
Breaking all the boundaries. He's, I'm the first queer in space.
Yeah.
Not really, but I think that's kind of fun. After this show was canceled, there's another milestone for this show. It was the first series to have a, quote, save the show online campaign. Because, in the early 90s is when the internet really started building up steam. You had the AOL Messenger app, an app, really, software. We didn't call it app. It's basically an app is software. So it's the same damn thing. But it had that going for it. And then MTV ended up playing all 19 episodes and daily reruns for about 2 years at least. And I recorded them off of MTV. I was like, oh my God, they're going to be on MTV. And they said, they're going to show up on MTV. And I started recording them I still have my VHS tapes recordings of these.
Oh, wow.
I know. I need to get out the VCR and rewatch them and watch all the old commercials and whatnot. Because I never stopped. I know. I think, what was it? Idalis was one of the VJs. I think that was her name, Idalis. And she's the one who introduced, here's MTV's, My So-Called Life. And
sounds familiar. I'm
old. I think that was her name, Idalis. But yeah, I still have them, and it's awesome. And ever since, I ended up watching the tapes and now the DVDs because I bought it on DVD, and for years, over and over. And I called it my, quote, television therapy. I would say this is my TV therapy. And when I needed a good cry or I just wanted to feel understood, and like we were saying before, I think the show is a real good portrayal of teen life and family life and just life in general. It was just so real.
Yeah.
But okay, I've been talking here for about 15 minutes about about the show. Let's get into the pilot.
Okay.
And I'm going to recap it, and we can just, throw in little tidbits here and there. So the show opens with the infamous lines, "Go now, go," which opens up every show, actually.
Yeah.
It's Angela Chase, who's Claire Danes, and Rayanne Graff, AJ Langer, who was 19 at this point. And they're trying to get money from strangers. What for? I have no idea. They just keep asking for spare change and screwing up and laughing and like Ariane's like, I'm sorry, you look like our mother who's in a coma. And then like Angela starts laughing. She's like, excuse her, she's hypoglycemic. I don't even know. It seems so real. It feels like maybe they improvised it a little bit. It just felt,
Yeah, they must have, because like you said, it just feels so natural. Like you just say something silly and you get the giggles and you can't stop,
Yeah. And you're watching them and you're looking, you can look at Angela and you look at Rayanne and you can tell Rayanne's the wild child from the get-go. She's dressed like, not, I don't want to say provocatively because she's not really, but she's, wearing kind of mismatched clothes, and Angela's over here in this like nice dress. She's got this plain kind of dirty blonde mousy hair.
Yeah.
She's kind of washed out. She doesn't have makeup on, but she's hanging out with Rayanne. I don't know how this friendship started, and I kind of wish I knew. I don't think we ever got that.
No.
But they started hanging out, and this is how they started hanging out. And Angela explains people are getting to her because they expect you to be a certain way. Mm-hmm. You're supposed to be just a certain way in school. And she started hanging out with this other girl, and she doesn't, I don't know. She doesn't want to be, I guess, pigeonholed into a certain personality. And that's when we meet her former best friend, Sharon Chersky, who's Devin Odessa. She was 20. And she's talking nonstop. She won't shut up. And Angela's just walking around looking at things. And, Sharon's just, I don't even pay attention to what Sharon says because I don't really give a shit because she's just one of those people like, shut up.
Yeah, she's very annoying.
She is. She's just like, oh my God, just shut up, Sharon. Shut up, Sharon. Shut up. And you can see that Angela's like, I'm over this. I'm over this friendship right now. I need something new in my life. It's the same thing every day. She's walking around. She's observing things. And the whole show, by the way, she is narrating. She narrates the show. And she's saying things to herself like, boys have it so easy. You just have to pretend you don't notice them noticing you.
Yeah.
And, she walks by a group of cheerleaders and she's like, cheerleaders, can't people just cheer on their own, like to themselves? I feel the same way, too. Like, shut up.
Yeah, that's funny because I actually was a cheerleader. And for some reason, I sat out one game and I was listening to the cheerleaders and I was like, holy crap, they're obnoxious. And then I quit.
You're like, I see why people hate us.
I'm out.
Bring it on. Bring me off.
Yeah.
So she sees poor Brian Krakow, who's her neighbor, played by Devin Gummersall, who was, I guess, 15 at the time. Okay. That's what I looked up his age. I was like, oh, they're close in age. And he's getting picked on in the hallway, getting slammed up against the locker and stuff. He's the nerd. The big curly hair, big mop head of hair.
Oh, that hair was great.
Oh, it really was. And she says, school is a battlefield for your heart. Mm-hmm. Which, oh my God, so melodramatic. But
it's so true when you're that age.
Oh, it is. It is. It's, I know. Wow.
You feel everything so much. Like every little thing.
It's so like everything, like everybody's looking at you this way. Oh my God. I can't even explain it. I mean, obviously we've all been through it. We all, hopefully we have. If you haven't, then what the hell? Get some priorities. Like, like I don't understand people who don't understand feeling out of sorts growing up in a way,
Yeah.
Some people are like, oh, life was easy for me. I don't get it. I don't, if you're popular or you just had everything set for you.
But even then, you've got to have some kind of strife. I feel like
you would hope and think, right?
Nobody's perfect, even if they try to like portray that on the outside.
Yeah. And a lot of people just don't admit it. They won't even admit it to themselves. They're like, come on now. Everybody went through this. So this is why Angela decides to dye her hair crimson glow, because Rayanne says her hair is holding her back. And what she means is her back in her life.
Right.
She needs something to shake things up. And that's what she does.
Mm-hmm.
And immediately after, Angela's downstairs in the kitchen, and her mom, Patty, played by Bess Armstrong, who I think at this point was best known for Jaws 3D.
Oh, okay.
She sees it and kind of gets this passive aggressive attitude, like, "Oh, so it is you. I thought somebody else was standing in my kitchen,"
Yeah.
and
Classic
basically
mom.
just to say, basically just to say that she doesn't like it. Doesn't like it. She's bringing in the groceries or whatever, and that's when she meets Angela's two new friends, Rayanne and Ricky. And Wilson Cruz this time was 20. And it's a very awkward encounter. Very awkward. You remember that when you would come home and you would bring some new friends home that no one's ever met, and it's just like, who are these strangers in my house?
I feel like I was probably more that strange person in someone else's house.
You know what? Me too. But my mom acted like this woman, just very, no.
Yeah.
Wall, no.
My parents were pretty open with people. Like, I mean, actually, we were kind of the household because we were latchkey kids. So my dad didn't get home from work until like 6 o'clock. So we were actually the house where everyone came and hung out. So everything was kind of just accepted. So that was kind of a cool part of growing up.
I was kind of a latchkey kid too. My mom didn't get home until later after I got home from school. But no one ever came over and hung out. I always went over to somebody else's house. I was never the hangout house. I just never was.
I always wanted to go to other people's houses because they had better snacks than we did. But people wanted to come to our house because there was no parental supervision. So
the vibe.
Kind of a trade-off.
It was the vibe. It was more about the vibe than it really was the snacks. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because we hung out at my friend's house, and they didn't have a lot of money. It was very obvious. It wasn't the cleanest house. It wasn't like it was dirty or anything. I mean, I've been in a house that's been dirty, and it had like weeds growing into the house. It was really sick.
My gosh.
Like bad. But this wasn't like that. It was just, unkempt, and they didn't have like all the premium channels or anything like that. They had furniture that had like tears and stuff in it. It was, they lived in our neighborhood, but I think they rented the house. I don't even think they owned it. They might have, but I think they rented it. And it was, everybody wanted to hang out there because it was just cool and chill and laid back. It wasn't about what they had. It was just about the vibe.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, so later at family dinner, Angela talks about how awkward chewing is and how people just do it like in public. Which if you think about it, it's true. You're like, it is kind of weird. You're putting something in your mouth and you're mashing it up, and it's kind of gross,
It is. I do like at the beginning of this scene too, how she says, "I cannot bring myself to eat a balanced meal in front of my mom because it would mean too much to her."
Yes.
Just that total mother-daughter, just anything you can do to piss each other off at that age.
She's like, lately I can't look at my mother without wanting to stab her repeatedly. And she's like just using her fork and slamming it down on the plate, just like she's just stabbing her mom.
Oh, I love it.
This is where we meet her little sister Danielle, played by 12-year-old Lisa Wilhoit, which I don't know if you know this. If you listen to her voice, and I was watching Family Guy, and I was like, that voice sounds familiar. And it was Lisa Wilhoit. She plays Connie D'Amico on Family Guy, which is like Meg's bully.
Oh, how funny. I didn't know that.
I mean, she's done a lot of other voices there. I think she did Kim Kardashian on Family Guy and stuff, but mainly it's Connie, and she's the bully to Meg on Family. It's so weird.
Funny.
And she doesn't sound that different. Like, her voice is just slightly deeper than it is in the show, in My So-Called Life. So it's just, she sounds exactly the same. It's really weird.
Too funny.
I love her dad, Graham Chase, whatever. He's played by Tom Irwin, who I thought was mega hot. I was so into him at that time.
He was a nice looking dad.
He really was. I was just like, hello. Well, not at that time. At that time, I was like, oh, he's a dad. But like later on, when I rewatched it, like in my 20s, I was like, God, he's hot. And then I've seen him now, and they're like, oh, he's not aged as well as I thought.
No. Aw.
Yeah, it sucks. But he was best known for a show called China Beach. Do you remember that show?
Yeah, I remember China Beach.
It was about like nurses. It's almost like the MASH of the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
In a way, but it wasn't funny. It was just a drama. But anyway, so he's kind of like this dad that wants to be hip with his daughter, buddy with her. And he's like talking about life. And he's like, social world, wild parties, Axl Rose. And I'm like, ooh, even that was like, it felt so awkward. It'd be me like, if I had a kid now saying, isn't that hip or cool? And don't you just love like all, I don't know. I don't even some stupid celebrity. Don't you just
Yeah.
love Cardi B? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, she's great.
Yeah. Shut up, Dad.
God, he's really trying.
But it's kind of endearing, like
Yeah, he's trying. He really wants to
"Aw."
connect with her.
Mm-hmm.
They're talking about Angela's hair and the change, and the mom's still being passive aggressive, saying, "We'll always be able to spot you in a crowd."
Yeah.
So my mom would say that crap too. There's this like awkwardness with her father when Angela's leaving the bathroom later on in a towel.
Yeah.
And she's like, it's lately my breasts have come between us. And I was like, you don't really have breasts, but whatever.
Yeah. First
no
of all, there's
offense.
that. Yeah.
I'm just saying, Claire Danes, you don't have big boobies. You just know this.
Nope.
And it's never been that way. And
Nope.
I don't, and at this point, you really don't. He's trying to talk to her. Like, he's like fumbling and dropping stuff. And he's like, how's school? How's school going? And she's like, well, I'm starting to like Anne Frank. And he's like, oh, really? Is she a sophomore too? She's like, no, she's dead. He's like, oh, right. And she's like, Anne Frank, Dad. Oh my God, yeah, it's right.
It's such an awkward scene because it's like, I don't know. It makes me a little uncomfortable.
Why is he so freaked out? Like,
right?
It's his daughter.
Yeah.
And he even's like, tells the mom later on in bed, he's like, can you just tell her to not walk around in a towel or get her a bigger towel?
Yeah. It's weird that it bothers him so much.
I know.
You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of, I don't know. It's a little creepy.
Or maybe he just doesn't want to feel like he's lingering talking to his daughter while she's in a towel. And maybe that feels weird to him,
True. Yeah.
I guess I can see that. He doesn't want to seem pedophile and incestuous or whatever,
Yeah.
I guess I could see it from that point of view, but it's kind of like, what? Damn. I don't know. The mom is still kind of lamenting about how what's Angela, what's she doing with her life kind of thing, and, dyeing her hair. And the dad's like, it could be worse. She could be cutting class, doing drugs, or having sex like we did. And, her mom's just like, I never cut class and you never had sex in high school. And she's just doing this to get a rise out of me, And he's like, that's not true. And she's like, it's just so hard to look at her. She looks like a stranger.
So dramatic.
It is, but it's like, and he looks at her like, God, she's not a stranger. She's our daughter. She's just going through. It's amazing to me how parents still, in every show or movie or something, kids go through things the same way through every generation. There might be just technology might be different. There might be some, different aspects to it a little bit, but it's all basically the same. You're still trying to find yourself and figure things out. And it amazes me that they completely forget that.
Right.
And
I feel like these parents are fairly young parents too. So it's not like it was that long ago that they were going through all this stuff to completely forget about it. But I do think, I don't know, I am not a parent, so I don't know, but I feel like, your priorities probably change and you want something better for your kids than maybe you had. So you have these hopes and dreams, and then when they don't do what you want them to do, then you're like, man, I can't even look at her.
I can't even look at her. She had to go and change her hair.
She dyed her hair.
I'm like, yeah, you want to change, it's not a reflection of you. It's a reflection of them and what they're going through. It's nothing to do with you, and that's the thing. When they get to a certain age, it stops being about you, I guess. Maybe that's what it is. Because the parents are there to guide their child. And at some point, that child starts to say, I'm making my own decisions now. And this is my life. This is my body. And,
Yeah.
And maybe that's what it is.
I definitely think there always is that kind of mother-daughter dynamic, especially like when the daughter starts to go through, puberty and start to discover who they are. There's always seems to be some kind of clash there. And they play that up a lot, I think, in My So-Called Life.
Oh, they really do. But that's the way it is. It's like, there's always the boy, if there's a boy, the boy is always attached to the mom. And if there's a girl, the girl's always attached to the dad. And this is just in real life. This just happens all the time.
Yeah.
And, daddy's girl, mama's boy. And then you have usually the dads will try to be attached to the boy, but the boy ends up rebelling against the dad. And then the same thing for the daughter. The daughter rebels against the mom because ultimately we become our parents, and you don't want to be. And since that one's the one that's the same sex as you, and you see all their flaws or the things you don't like about them, even though you love them, you don't want to, I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't explain it. I'm not a damn psychologist.
I think there's also a little bit of competition too, right? Because we find out that Patty was like super popular and Angela's obviously not that way. So I think there's also that kind of like maybe a little bit of jealousy that, my mom had it so easy and I'm struggling so hard, in high school type of thing.
And it kind of makes you think like, seeing where Sharon's storyline takes her later on, they're sophomores, so they're still kind of early on in high school years. But I wonder if Angela hadn't changed and still hung around Sharon, would she have become popular?
Yeah.
You know what I
maybe.
mean?
Yeah.
By association, even by association. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously that's not what she wants, but I digress. So it cuts to school and Angela's leaning against the locker and she's looking over and she says, "I'm in love. His name is Jordan Catalano. He was left back twice. Once I almost touched his shoulder in the middle of a pop quiz. He's always closing his eyes like it hurts to look at things." And she's just staring at him. And I'm like, is he high? Because he's putting in eye drops.
Right, probably.
He's probably stoned. And one thing always bothered me about this line was that he was left back twice.
How old is he?
But the thing is, I never heard the term left back.
Oh,
I would have
heard
been
that.
held back. Held back from graduating or held back from going to the next grade. Left back sounds like left behind.
We just left him back there.
We left him back there. He's back, I guess that's what it is. He was left back by his fellow classmen. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess I never really thought about it. I feel like we said both. I feel like we said held back, left back. I don't know.
It's weird. I don't know.
Maybe it's a California thing. I don't know.
And maybe it is. I don't know. It's even though this is supposed to take place like in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. That's where the show takes place.
Oh.
At Liberty High. Liberty, obviously. I guess it's weird because you would think Liberty would be Philadelphia.
Right.
But I don't know. Whatever. You know what I'm saying. Boo, boo, boo. So she's staring at Jordan. Jordan walks off. And that's when she looks over and sees Sharon. And Sharon looks at her like, "Oh my God, your hair,"
Mm-hmm.
And there's just kind of like this freeze between them. And that's when Rayanne kind of, I don't know what it is, but Rayanne sees it and says, "Hey, Angela, come talk to me for a sec."
Yeah.
And pulls her into the bathroom. And I'm like, is this out of jealousy? Is this to pull Angela out of this awkward stare down? Or which is probably both, actually.
Yeah, I think once we get to know Rayanne a little bit better, I think it's probably a little bit more jealousy, kind of possessiveness over Angela. Like, this is my new friend, like.
Yeah, she's my girlfriend, not yours.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they go into the bathroom where they meet often. And she just turns to Angela and says, "You want to have sex with him?" And Angela like, "Who?" She goes, "Who? Jordan Catalano?" And she's like, "Come on, we're going to go to this party tonight or the next night. And, Jordan Catalano's going to be there." And, Angela's like, Rayanne always knows who's going to be there. And there's always that friend who's the one who knows everything about what's going on.
Yep.
In school. There's always that friend who's like, "Oh yeah, so-and-so's going to be there." And stuff. I'm like, those people. You're like, they might not even be the popular person, but they know what's going on.
Yeah. They've got all the info.
All the 411. Oh my God, that's so old. Do people even dial 411 anymore?
I don't even know if it exists anymore.
I wonder.
Because you got Google now. Like, what do you need 411 for?
I know. I guess maybe older people do. Because a lot of people, they just don't want to use the damn search engine. I'm like, just type it in. My mom just doesn't want to do it. I'm like, I don't know what I'm looking for. I'm like, "Well, what are you looking for?" She was like, "I'm looking for this." I'm like, "Then type that in." And she makes it this big complicated. "Well, how do I search?" I'm like, "You type in what you're looking for." She's thinking she's got to type some magic words in. It's going to bring. I'm like, no,
just whatever you're thinking. Just type it in there. It'll show up.
If you type in a lot and it doesn't bring up what you want, then shorten that down.
Yeah.
And then you'll see. Oh my goodness. Ugh. Anyway, so yes, like I said before, Sharon cannot believe that Angela dyed her hair without telling her. And she's still kind of hanging around Sharon a little bit, but it's like, you know, you can tell there's a disconnect. So they go to yearbook committee, and while they're there, you know, Brian Krakow is lurking and taking pictures of people, just everybody. He's always focusing on Angela, and Angela, she hides her hair. I love this shot, by the way. She pulls up her sweater, and you see inside the sweater with her looking around and seeing everybody through the sweater. And she talks about, and there's a good line here too. She goes, you know, my parents keep asking how school was. It's like saying, how was that drive-by shooting? You don't care how it was. You're lucky to get out alive.
Yeah. Which probably had a very different meaning back then, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, if you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
There's even an episode coming up that has like, it feels very familiar. And it's very much before the Columbine era, you know? So it's very ahead of its time. But anyway, so they're taking votes on, I guess, a yearbook theme or whatever, and Angela is the only one who hasn't voted. And so she's like, they're like, Angela, why didn't you vote? She was like, I don't want to be in your book anymore. And she says, why? She was like, I don't know why. And then she just leaves. That final shot of her, like Brian, like this awkwardness, like caught in the act kind of look, you know?
Yeah.
Very TMZ, before TMZ. TMZ for high school. So, you know, it guts to, and it's the next day, I guess. And Patty's like, I thought she liked your book. Your room is a disaster. And she's like, I don't really like your book that much. She's like, oh, come on. And then, you know, Angela just basically leaves the room while Patty's picking stuff. And she was like, Angela, I am not cleaning this up. She says, as she picks up clothes and she's like, oh, she throws it down.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you are. You're cleaning that.
And you can see the look on her face too, where she's like, shit, now I'm my mother. You know, like
exactly.
That realization.
You realize, I'm guessing, I'm like, I don't know if I'll ever have a kid, so I don't know if I'll ever know if I'll turn into my mom, you know, and I know I'm going to know when it happens, though. You know, you know when it happens. You've got to know when it happens. I know there's instances now, just being an adult, where I've said things that my mom or my dad have said, and I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah. Not parenting wise, but there are definitely things that I do, and I'm like, shit, I'm my mom. It just happens.
You're like, damn you to hell. Why have you done this to me? You have forsaken me. Why, mom? I don't. Oh, man. I'm definitely more like my mom anyway. I was closer to her. It was two boys in my house. So obviously one of them's going to be closer to one of the other parent, you know?
Yeah.
Of course, I was the baby, so I was going to be my mom. Yeah. So you hear my little isms and whatnot. That's mostly my mom. Most of the way I talk.
Aww.
It is. Yeah.
Mama Dustin.
Ooh, no. Mm-mm. No. I don't know if I'd want to be called dad or papa. I do not want to be called daddy by anybody.
No, that term is just, it just feels wrong now.
I don't even like little kids saying daddy.
Yeah.
I just don't like it. I've never liked it. And the thing is, in the South, you have grown men calling their fathers are daddy and their moms are mama. I call my mom mama. I do. But I never called my dad daddy. I don't ever remember calling him daddy. It was always dad.
Our dad was always dad, too.
I don't know. That feels weird. It's very strange.
Yeah. Kind of a visitor. Sorry.
Oh, you have a kitty visitor?
My dog.
Oh, the dog.
The dog.
The dog. There is no dog in My So-Called Life, by the way, which I thought was weird.
Yeah.
There's, you know, they have, I think at some point they mentioned like getting pet food, but you've never seen a pet.
Oh yeah. I think Patty said something like, oh, I got to clean out the litter box or something. And I was like, we're never seeing a pet.
I know you never see the pet. There's one around apparently. Ghost cat. And it's really strange. Anyway. So yeah, she's mad and whatnot. And then at school, Ricky is putting on eyeliner in the girls' bathroom as Rayanne puts on lipstick on Angela. And they're talking about Jordan, of course. And Rayanne asks Ricky to give the male perspective on Jordan. And the first thing that Ricky says is, "Don't you love how he leans?"
Yeah.
Because that's what
What
Angela
he's good
says.
at.
He leans great, and oh my God, I love that. Don't you love how he leans?
Mm-hmm.
Because he always just stares off into oblivion.
Yeah.
Jared Leto was perfect for that. With those big ass eyes of his, he just looked like an idiot. He does.
Yeah.
He naturally looks dumb if you look at him in the face. He just
He does, but adorably so.
Yeah. Back then. I don't know about now, but back then.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely back then. Because again, just this whole like ideal of, your first major teenage crush is just we kind of all crushed with Jordan Catalano along with Angela.
It's funny. I wasn't really attracted to Jordan.
Oh man, I was
at that time, which you would think I just wasn't, I don't know, something. I think because I knew his personality and he was, I'm more of a personality person, what I mean? Like, I think they need to be somewhat physically appealing, obviously, but when I get to know somebody's personality, it's when they become attractive to me. That's just who I am.
And he sucks big time. Like, he really sucks, but he's just so cute to look at.
Yeah, he really does suck. And you're just like, oh, he does have some redeeming qualities at times, but most of the part, yeah, he sucks.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the bell rings the second time. She's, oh my God, that's the second bell. And she starts running out and she stops and she looks and Ricky and Ryan are just like, what the fuck where are you going? And, Angela's still a good girl. She's like, I might as well just go to bio since I'm not really doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
And she runs out and she runs to class and she runs by some random cheerleader who's crying in the hall.
I know. She's just so like, yep, that's high school.
It is. And you're like, I want to know what happened. Mm-hmm. What happened?
What happened to the cheerleader?
There's this random montage of Brian Krakow raising his hand constantly and answering questions in each class, which is funny. I loved it. How he was like, who can tell me this? And he'll answer a question. And it's like in science class and he raises his hand and then he answers an English question. And then it's exactly in English and it just keeps cutting to. And then it goes into English and Angela's daydreaming, just staring at a light that's flickering above her. And the teachers talk about Anne Frank and whatnot. And she says, this is, oh my God, it's the most horrible.
So embarrassing.
It is.
Just wrong.
And Angela is sitting there and she's barely listening. And the teacher says, in general to the class, how would you describe Anne Frank? And Angela says to herself, lucky. And you're like, whoa. She goes, is that supposed to be funny, Angela? How on earth could you make a statement like that? And that's when Jordan enters the room and they notice that the teacher even rolls her eyes at him because he came in late. And she goes, Anne Frank perished in a concentration camp. Anne Frank is a tragic figure. How can Anne Frank be lucky? And Angela just kind of goes, I don't know, because she was trapped in an attic for 3 years with this guy she really liked.
It's just so vapid.
That's not lucky.
I love it though, because she's not dumb. But she just says something so stupid because she's just so obsessed. Like, all of her focus is just like on this boy she likes. Like, all other perspective goes out the window.
I know, all of it. And, and you're like, that's the only answer you can think of. Like, I mean, obviously she was literally thinking that she was lucky to be with that guy she liked and trapped in there with him, She was thinking about that. That's the only thing she was thinking about. And she didn't think about the whole aspect of Anne Frank. She was just thinking about that one little aspect because she was obsessed with the boy. And that's it. And she honestly answered, like, because she was trapped with the guy she liked. Well, later on, that same teacher, Mrs. Mayhew, who is also the yearbook sponsor, is having a talk with Angela while eating her lunch, because there's cutbacks and she doesn't get a lunch on certain days, which is a typical American high school thing.
Yeah.
You got to give up a lunch hour, which I'm like, really? But it's true, guys. If you're listening in another country and your teacher gets a lunch hour, good for them. And it's funny how she goes, it's like seeing your teacher's actual lunch is really depressing.
Yeah. She's just like a sandwich or something, right?
It's like tuna fish or something, I think. I don't know. And she's talking about your appearance is altered. You quit yearbook and the thing you said about Anne Frank. And Angela just kind of says how she doesn't know what her personality or her identity is. And she says, like with yearbook, everyone's in this big hurry to make this book supposedly about to remember what happened, but it isn't what really happened. It's about what everybody thinks is supposed to happen. Because if you made a book about what really happened, it'd be a really upsetting book. Like, that's true. It's true. It's like, Angel, shut up.
I love it though, because like she can be so insightful like that, but then say something stupid like Anne Frank is lucky because she got to spend 3 years with the boy she likes.
She's very insightful. That's what tells you she's really smart.
Mm-hmm.
She's smart because she understands what she's going through as she's going through it, and and puts it in a way to where you can understand it, even if you're not going through it. You know.
Yeah.
So later on at home, Angela explains how her dad works for her mom's printing company, even though he was supposed to go to chef school, but he never did for some reason. And Patty is his boss, which, not good. That dynamic is not good.
No.
He doesn't really get a say around the house or even at work. You know, that's basically what it is. He doesn't have a say in his life. And, but the dad still like is trying to keep their family together. And he's telling, you know, Angela, don't give your mom such a hard time. She just wants everybody to be happy. And he's like, no, that's you. He's like, just be nicer to her as an experiment.
Yeah.
You know? And that's when Angela moves in for the kill. So there's this thing at a friend of Rianne's house, this play we might all do for extra credit. And I know I'm not supposed to go on school nights, but I really want to go. I won't be home late, you know, and she cut to the party. Dad falls for it, or gives in at least. And this party is raging in someone's backyard. Now, how would this happen in a suburban neighborhood? Like, it's mayhem, and there's a live band, and they're outside.
On a school night at a high school party.
No one does anything? Like,
right.
The cops aren't called and like broken. I mean, this thing is going on for a while. Like, is this at like a neighborhood where there's a bunch of abandoned houses or old people live by and they don't care? I don't know.
Yeah. And it's never saw a party like that in high school.
I know. I never went to a party like no live band, if anything.
No.
It's just a boombox and, you know, some CDs.
That stack of CDs or the folder of CDs.
Going back and rewatching this, like, God, I'm old.
Yeah.
Wow, CDs, guys. CDs. I was watching Dawson's Creek, and Dawson like brought some. I was watching Dawson's Creek, but and Dawson like goes to like the music store, and he's bringing some CDs to sell to them, and one of them was like Vanilla Ice.
Oh my God.
He was like, I was 10. I was like, oh my God. Oh, Vanilla Ice.
I mean, wow. I think I had Vanilla Ice on cassette. That's how old I am.
I had Snow. Remember Snow? Informer. You don't get blame. I lick you boom boom down. I used to know a lot of those lyrics. I don't know them now, but I had that single cassette single.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Those were the days.
Those were the days. Wow. Anyway, so yeah, Angela spots Rayanne drinking and partying, and she's trying to go over to her. Now, Angela's wearing this the only way I can describe it is a very Willow Rosenberg type dress.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Just very plain. Good to see you've seen the softer side of Sears type dress, you know?
Right.
And this is pre-Buffy. And she's just walking around, you know, she's got her red hair, but she just looks very plain.
Yeah.
And she's trying to dress up for a party, which that's not what you do in high school. You don't dress like that anyway. A nice dress or whatnot. Some guys like jumping around. That's all she's
got. Yeah.
What'd you say?
And that's all she's got, I feel like, at this point. Because she was kind of like in the very opening scene. She's a little bit more, not frumpy, but just kind of wholesome, which I think is probably the clothes that Patty's been buying for her whole life, you know? Mm-hmm. So like this is what she's got right now.
She doesn't have many options, that's for sure. But yeah, some guy is jumping around on stage and he stage dives and goes to the ground, and it knocks Angela into a mud puddle, which I'm guessing it's beer. I'm assuming and hoping it's just beer.
Yeah.
That she gets knocked, and she gets it all over her, and you're like, oh man, she just got there. Yeah. And the second she does, walking through the crowd, boom, right into a mud. Ugh, sucks. So she goes inside to clean up, and it's really quiet inside. And she walks in and she sees Jordan sitting there watching TV, which I don't know if you noticed what was on the TV. It was the Divinals I Touch Myself music video.
Nice.
He's watching that with the sound off. Why? I don't know. But he's watching it.
He's high.
Yeah, that's probably what it is. But she's like, oh my God. And she's trying to leave the room. She goes to the French doors next to her and it's locked. And she's like, shit, I can't go. So she just sits down. She's covered up. She had mud splattered on her face and all over her dress. And I'm like, oh, you look horrible. And he just randomly goes, this doesn't seem like a Friday. And she goes, it's Thursday. And he says, oh, are you sure? And she says, well, yesterday was Wednesday. So he goes, oh, right. And she goes, so that's how I know. That's why it felt like me, because I'm so awkward when talking to people. Obviously, you heard at the beginning of this. I'm like, does not compute. I don't know. But, God, ugh.
And this is like their first real conversation too, right?
Yeah, the first time they really exchanged words instead of her just staring at him from down the hall. I mean, how could you not notice some girl staring at you all the time?
Right. Because you're leaning and your eyes are closed.
Yeah. He leans great. Do you love how he leans? So some guy shows up right after that and is like, hey, this party bites. Let's go. And he gets up to leave. And I'm like, oh, you missed your shot, girl. But I mean, honestly, would she have had a shot? She had mud all over her. Like,
yeah. What could you do at that moment when you're covered with mud?
Meanwhile, at home, Patty's chewing out Graham for letting her go out on a school night. She goes, why do I always have to be the mean one? Why can't you be the mean one? And he was like, I can be. She goes, but you never are. And she's like, I know she loves you more. He's like, she doesn't love me more. Yes, she does. She loves you more. I accept that. Oh,
Patty.
Oh my God. You're like, oh my Lord, this conversation. It's very high school almost in a way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, you just let her snow you. And Angela shows up. She's covered in mud and her hair's all disheveled and whatever. And they're freaking out. And it's mainly Patty freaking out. She goes, oh my God, what happened to you? Oh my God. Oh my God. And then Angela's like looking at her dad. Didn't you explain it to her? And her mom goes, excuse me? You explain it to her. And just the arguments ensues. And then poor Danielle, she's like,
oh my God,
what's going on? And the dad's like, shut up. And she goes, what did I do? She goes, I'm sorry, sweetheart. You're like, oh, poor little Danielle.
She's always so fighting for attention. And like, they just completely ignore her all the time.
See, I felt like, the thing is, I understood Angela. Like my role in life was like, obviously I'm seeing high school life at this time, and I was in junior high, but it's still the same thing. But I was totally Danielle. Like, look at me. Hey, look at me. I exist. Look at me. Hello. It's really sad. But like the mom's like, how do you expect her to have any respect for me? And that's when Angela goes, I respect you. God, nothing happened. I fell into mud. I'm all right. And they all just kind of look at each other. And that's when the dad's like, I think we should just all go to bed. And he turns off the light. And then he goes upstairs. Patty leaves the room. And that's when Danielle's standing there staring at Angela. She goes, what really happened?
Little insightful Danielle.
She knows. She knows stuff is up. Like, what's really going on? Which I love that about Danielle. But at the same time, you kind of hate her at the same time. Because you kind of see her through Angela's eyes. Like, oh, pesky little brat.
Mm-hmm.
So the next day at lunch, Rayanne tells Angela that there's a rave at the club. Let's Bolt. What a name.
Right.
Let's Bolt.
Let's Bolt.
Which, that's such a 90s term.
Oh, yeah.
No one would understand what that is. Gen Z would be like, what? What's that? Like, let's get out of here. Like, vamos, get the hell out.
I can totally picture this club too. Just, so grungy and wonderfully 90s.
I know. Oh, man. So she says Jordan will be there, and she doesn't have to worry about what she has to say to him because you won't be able to hear anything. You can't hear anything at Let's Bolt. It's too loud.
Perfect.
Perfection. So that's when Angela says the cafeteria is the embarrassment capital of the world. It's like a prison movie, which it is.
Yeah.
And Brian Krakow gets his food slammed into his chest on purpose.
Poor Krakow.
I wrote on purposes. I sound like that chick from the damn Love Actually.
Purposes.
Remember that? She kept saying everything wrong. I don't know. Love Actually.
Yeah.
Colin Firth's the Portuguese.
Oh, yeah.
Was she Portuguese?
Yes.
Okay. And she was on
Aurelia.
purposes.
Yeah. My answer is yes. Oh.
My answer is yes.
That
Sweet.
would be nice.
That would be nice. Yes.
I watch that movie every Christmas.
And we're back. So Angela's like, I don't know what to wear. And Rayanne says, you have to look tough because someone once set fire to her hair at Let's Bolt.
Oh my God. Like, what is Rayanne's life? Like, jeez.
I don't know. Like, how did she survive so far? You know, I mean, and what else has she seen and done?
Right?
I kind of want a
15,
prequel.
right? That would be cool.
I know, but they're so young. It's like, oh, it'd be really disturbing.
True.
Goes to the bathroom. And this is where I love this conversation. Because there's a girl that's like coming out of the stall. She's like, so what's fat free? And this other girl's smoking. She's like, when something is like free of fat. And the same girl goes, well, what's the difference between fat free and like non-fat? And girl 3, who's Bianca Lawson, by the way.
From Buffy.
From
right?
Buffy. And everything else. And Pretty Little Liars and stuff. She's played a teenager for like 30 years. She really has. It's yeah.
I didn't know
like,
she was
"Good
in Pretty Little
question."
Liars.
Yeah, she was apparently. I didn't know that until I just happened to see her, resume, I guess. But and she's like, good question. And they leave. And I'm like, that was it. That was the only line she had in the show. That was probably one of her first roles.
And then she was the Vampire Slayer.
Well, she was actually on Saved by the Bell, the new class.
Oh.
Too. Yeah.
Okay.
She was the resident black girl. Because they all had the archetypes and stuff they kept trying to recreate.
Yep.
And they kept having like the Zach Morris character and they kept getting rid of him and getting a new one. And then they got rid of him. They got a new one. It was weird.
I don't think I ever watched the new class.
It's not good.
Oh, yeah.
It was no Saved by the Bell 2020 anyway, but which I'm still pissed about that, but we'll not get into that right now.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
That's sad.
So Angela wonders what she can tell her parents so she can go. And Rand's like, well, you can just, stay at my place. And that way it's not a lie because you can't stay over because my mom won't be there. And that's when her ex-bestie Sharon enters the bathroom and Rayanne leaves. And Angela just tries to say hi to Sharon. And Sharon's like, whatever. That kind of look. She isn't having it. She ends up chewing out Angela, saying that everyone's talking about her and that Angela thinks she's better than everyone. And Rayanne is God to her. She just does everything she says. And she's just using Angela like she did with Jodie Barsh. And this is such a real thing that somebody would say. She's like, well, what'd she do to Jodie Barsh? She was like, oh, please. That's like so known. Such an obvious lie.
I know. Everyone knows.
Everyone knows. Like, well, then tell me. I don't, Sharon's getting all teary-eyed. She was like, what did I do, Angela? Just tell me what I did. What did I do? And Angela's starting to cry. She was like, she can't explain it. And they're, just tearing up. And she goes, God, your hair. Did Patty like hemorrhage the first time she saw it? And Angela's like, she starts to smile. She's thinking Sharon's trying to bond with me now. She was like, in a sense, And she goes, well, I have to say, I hate it.
Yeah.
That's her zinger before she finally leaves all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Damn,
Sharon.
But you feel this whole scene. You feel that friendship break up. That's just man.
And just the look on Angela's face. God, Claire Danes is such a good actress, even at 15. Just her facial expressions. You're just like, oh, you really feel it,
I know. She's always been great. I've always respected her acting ability. So at dinner that night, Patty's like, I want to go ice skating. How about that? Let's do a little family bonding, blah, 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 But everyone's like, I have plans. Danielle wants to watch a movie. And she's like, there's this movie I want to watch tonight. It's like this girl who does obscene phone calls as like her job. And everybody's just looking at her like, what? This girl's like 11 or 10. And Graham's like, he's going to go shoot pool with his brother, Neil. And Patty's like, that's weird. You don't ever hang out with your brother this often. And then you keep hearing Danielle in the background. So it's like, and then like someone tries to like kill her like over the phone.
And nobody's listening.
Everybody's like, what the fuck? Shut up. Like they hear her, but they just ignore her.
I know. So
And then
sad.
Angela brings up over sleeping over at Rayanne's. So I can watch it, right? And it's like they keep having this conversation. I can, right? I can watch it, right? She's bringing it up. Patty thinks that rude girl that was over here. She's not rude. She is. She ate my cheese. I had this whole block of cheese. She devoured it. I'm like, you offered that,
the
you dumb bitch.
Yeah.
Here's some cheese. She was, I have met this Rayanne girl once. I do not know her. I do not know her parents, which remember those days.
Oh, yeah. Let me call their mom, make sure it's okay.
Well, I mean, and you would just say, you talk to them once over the phone and you'd be fine to go hang out over there.
Mhm.
Nowadays, no. Which
No.
I don't know why. I mean, you have phones. You're more connected to your kids than ever nowadays. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I understand you want to know people that your kids go and hang out at. You know, you want to know the neighborhood they live in or what type of person they are. But you can get that. But I don't know. It seems like people are really overprotective of their kids nowadays.
Yeah.
Well, kids get kidnapped all the time. Like, no, they don't. You think they do because of social media and the news. You can connect with news sources anywhere. It's not that different, I don't think. Yes,
no, they
is
were
different.
getting kidnapped back then, too.
Yeah, they were. They were totally getting kidnapped back then.
Yeah.
You know what you do? You teach your kids to, like, you know, stranger danger stuff. You know, you don't just, you know, I don't think anybody's teaching their kids this stuff anymore.
No.
They're so
They're
overprotected. They don't know how to, like, spot danger.
Right. They're just, every minute is scheduled, too, with freaking activities. I didn't have any activities growing up. We had to make our own activities.
I know. You might have had one after school thing, maybe, you know, but it wasn't like constantly going. Yeah. Anyway, so Dad is rooting for Angela. Angela explains that her parents went to the same high school, but they didn't know each other then. And Graham implies that Patty was popular. He says, like, they had to change the date of the prom because your mom was having her appendix out. Meanwhile, I couldn't get a girl to look at me. And that just pisses Patty off.
Yeah.
Like, I think he probably keeps bringing this stuff up over and over.
Yeah.
You were popular, I wasn't.
Popular, yeah.
And she kind of resents it.
Like, what school's going to change an entire dance for one frickin' student? Come on.
She was, I didn't tell them to change the date of the dance, but was she on the prom committee? Or was the prom committee, she was part of the whole group and they were like, we have to change it. She's having her appendix out.
Yeah.
That just seems like a last minute thing that you can't just do that. Because getting your appendix out, it's usually because your appendix is about to burst or something, you know?
Right.
So doing all that last minute, you imagine all the people who had to like reschedule their limo rentals and any kind of like reservations they had.
The venue, unless it was at the school, like, come on.
Yeah, there's no way they changed the damn. I don't understand that.
No.
I think that was probably a rumor.
Yeah.
She's having her appendix out. We had to change the date of the prom. Like, no. Or did they lose the venue and they had to find a new venue or something like that, you know?
Right.
That's probably more like it. What do you guys think? Tell us.
Your prom theories.
What are your prom theories? Why did they change the date of the prom for Patty? Or did they change it for Patty? Let us know. Hit me up at Dustin_Holden on Twitter. Whatever. Anyway, so Angela says that, well, you don't have to drive us because Ricky's cousin said he'll drive us. She goes, oh, well, Ricky's cousin. Well, that eases my mind. And she was like, you don't know this Ricky. She's quit calling him this Ricky. And she goes, I find Ricky a little confusing. She goes, okay, so maybe he's bi. Who cares? His cousin can still drive.
Bi?
What?
You hear
these
words?
terms she's throwing around? Bi? And that's when Danielle pipes up. It means bisexual.
Yeah. God love you, Danielle.
And the dad's like, he's bisexual? And the mom pulls this crap. He can't be bi anything. He's a child. He's obviously confused. Why is it always somebody's confused when they're gay or bi, but if they're straight, they're not confused?
Right. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. they don't know what love is until they turn 17 or 18 somehow.
Yeah.
That's when they know what love is. And even then, sometimes, no, they don't know what love is. Like, well, maybe they do.
Yeah.
That's always bothered me.
Yeah.
And he was like, he wears eyeliner. He was, he does? He wears eyeliner? And
So
this is where Angela's like, I thought you were my side. And Graham's like, I'm not on anyone's side. And Patty goes, Graham, grow up, choose a side.
I love that so much.
It's such a family argument.
Oh, yeah.
Such a family argument. Perfect. Angela grabs her bag and is halfway out the door. Like, she's just going to get all the, I'm going. I don't care. She's basically, I'm going. I don't care what you say. But she kind of waits. She's waiting for that approval still. You know? And poor Danielle is just wanting attention doing a headstand.
You see her feet in the background.
Yeah, she's just trying to do his handstand. Dad, are you looking? Dad, are you looking? Are you looking? Patty's like, fine, just go to your damn friend's house and you go shoot pool with your brother or wherever the hell you're going. And she gets pissed off. She leaves the room. Dad, are you looking?
Oh.
So outside, waiting for Ricky's cousin, Angela changes to her more risque outfit in the bushes. And this is where Brian Krakow, for some reason, is riding his bike in the street in the middle of the night. I don't know why, but it's kind of strange. Brian Krakow is strange, so
he's an odd duck. He also just hangs out in trees sometimes.
Yeah. And he sees her riding her, sitting there. He's like, you know what? You look better before. She's like, oh, like I'm devastated, like I am. I'm like, what?
This is such a strange conversation between the two of them.
It is. It's very, you could tell they were old friends.
Yeah.
At some point. And he belittles her about going and hang out with her. Oh, look at me. I'm hanging out with my way cool friends to go watch a floor wax. I'm like, what? And she's putting on makeup. That's right. Cover that zit. She's like, want me to do yours? He goes, ouch, that really hurt. And then he asks, who are you waiting for? Catalano? And she stops like, what? How did he know? Right. And she tells him, I'm going to Let's Bolt. And he tells her, like they'll really let you in for Let's Bolt. And he's circling around. She's like, quit, circling me. And he goes, stop acting. You're not stupid. It's a stupid act. And she goes, everyone's an act, including you. Like, ooh.
Sassy.
She gets in the car and then Rayanne's in the car where she's like, it's going to be an amazing night. You look so tough. So they go to Let's Bolt and there's nobody there. Like the parking lot's almost empty.
Yeah.
And they're just waiting outside and they start drinking, which, Ricky isn't. He's like, ugh. But that's the thing you notice about Ricky. He might hang around Rayanne, but he doesn't do everything she does.
Yeah.
Which is like, he's got his own he
thing.
knows himself,
Yeah.
And they're waiting for Tino, who doesn't show up, of course. Of course. We only hear about Tino.
I was going to say, we don't ever actually see Tino, do we?
No.
Yeah,
you never see Tino. So. She's like he's like Wolowitz's mother on Big Bang Theory. You never see him. But Wolowitz's mother, you at least hear. You don't hear Tino either.
Mm-mm.
You always just miss him.
Yeah. The elusive Tino.
I know. So they're getting drunk and time is passing and now they're drunk and you hear a thunderstorm getting ready in the distance and people are finally filling up the parking lot and then drunk Angela and Rayanne are trading shoes. And Ricky asks, so if you were like going to do it, right? Like, what would you want the person to say like right before? And Rayanne's like, this won't take long.
Poor Rayanne.
She was like, no, really? He was like, don't I know you? She was, no, like romantic. So Angela says, you're so beautiful. It hurts to look at you. Ricky, of course, likes it. Rayanne laughs and said, where would it hurt?
Poor Rayanne.
Rayanne says, well, I'm going to go tell Jordan. She's yelling, Jordan. She's running through the parking lot and they're laughing. And, Angela's chasing after her. And that's where Rayanne runs into some skeevy guys. One in particular, really. But she's obviously drunk. You can look at her. You can tell. And Rayanne's like, hey, can you get us in? My friend's in there and he's got my keys. And they're like, you can't get in. And she's like, nah, whatever. And then one of the guys asks how old they are and they're laughing. He then asks, hey, you guys want to go somewhere? And Rand's like, I don't know. Do you want to go somewhere? And turns to Angela. And the guy says, no, not all three of you. Just Rand and Angela, basically. They don't want Ricky. Angela doesn't want to leave. I know. It's like, Angela does not want to leave Ricky behind. And you can tell Ricky is used to this from Rand.
Oh, no.
Ricky don't mind. He's like, I don't mind.
Poor
and it's
Ricky.
really sad. Like,
it
she
is.
disregards him all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's Rand's world and we all live in it, kind of thing.
Right.
And this guy says to Rand that he wants to ask her something. Come here, I want to ask you something. And she's like, well, ask me from there. He goes, I want to ask you over here. And the friend that's with him is like, come on, let's go. They're too young. Let's leave them alone. Rand starts walking towards him and says, I don't take orders and I'm not stupid. And then he makes a pretty good point. But you came when I called for you.
Yeah. Ew.
Like, ooh. And that's when he grabs her, kisses her, then slams her up against this van and pins her against the van and just starts kissing her neck. And you hear like a rip, like you probably heard dresses ripping. And that's when Angela's like, something was actually happening, but it was too actual. Like she didn't know what to do. She's frozen. That's when Angela, good for her, runs up. She's get off of her and like pulls him off of Rand. And it's like, he looks like he's going to do something to her, but the friend gets in the way and Rand falls down. She says, I can take care of myself. And she throws the bottle of, I guess, whiskey she has and throws it. And it almost hits the guy in the head, smashing it against the car behind him. He's like, you're dead. And that's when a cop shows up and it's starting to rain. And Ricky's like, he's like, I got to get out of here, but don't worry. She won't remember this because she blacks out when she drinks. I'm like, that's not good to know about your friend.
No, at 15.
When she drinks, like, I don't even know when I had my first drink, but I think it was maybe I was a freshman. But how old was I? I don't remember the first time I got drunk. I do not remember this at all. I black out when I drink. No,
Well, yeah.
well, no, but I think, I don't know when. Maybe, but it was probably 15 or 16, not like I had been doing it for years and this is what happens when I drink. You know what I mean? Like, do you remember when you first drank?
Oh yeah, I was 18. I was already out of high school.
Oh, okay.
I was like, I wasn't a total goody two shoes, but I went to a few parties in high school where people were getting drunk. I'm like, they are acting like idiots and I don't want to act that way. So I was never really into drinking or anything in high school, but yeah. I know.
Yeah, I don't remember getting like drunk. I'm only a couple of times maybe, but that was like doing shots or something. It was only one-on-one too. So usually I don't do it like parties. Probably had something, but I never really got drunk in high school. I don't think, except for like once. Anyway. So yeah, this cop shows up and he pulls, the guys back. I don't know what he does with those guys, but he goes and he ends up taking the girls and he's going to put them in the back of the cop car. He goes, don't worry, I'm not arresting you, whatever. Rand sits down and just as Angela's about to get in, Rand's like, oh my God, Angela, look. And Angela turns around and looks over and Jordan Catalano is arriving and he looks over as Angela's getting into the back of the cop car. He goes, hey, I know that girl, Angela. And you have this look of, she just elated. This, oh my God, he knows my name.
And he's seeing me getting into a cop car. My cool points just went so far up.
Exactly. Like, oh my God, I'm getting taken away. It's awesome. But because you see him and he's the cool guy. He gets into trouble, cool guy. He's not like the varsity player type popular guy. He's the bad boy,
Yeah.
But he's the dreamy bad boy,
Mm-hmm.
And wow. So, which is funny. One of my best friends in high school was the dreamy bad boy.
Did he lean really well?
No, it's just that he was he was on the football team, but he wasn't like he had all the right clothes or hung out with everybody. They all knew him and they were fine with him, but he was kind of like the bad boy, and
yeah,
not somebody who would go and steal things or something, but he was just that guy. He was a friend to everybody kind of thing. And
yeah.
And I mean, I was too. So that's the reason why I was kind of like the Angela. I don't know. But I say that a lot. I don't know.
Whatever.
Forget about it. So Rayanne in the back of the car, she goes, I'll always watch out for you. I'll always be there for you, okay? So don't you worry. And you know what? With your hair like that, it hurts to look at you.
Aww.
And she's laughing, and the guy gets out and takes Rayanne to her house, and Angela says at Rayanne's house, no one was home. Which just tells you that Rayanne's story is really kind of tragic.
Yeah.
You don't want to be her.
That's kind of the first little glimpse into like what her home life might be like. She's
And it only gets worse from there.
Yeah.
So the cop gets, pulling into Angela's neighborhood, and Angela is just blabbing about Anne Frank, about her book. He's like, I've never read the book. And she goes, he's really interested in it. And he's like, don't do this again. Don't get into this situation again. And she's like, can you please just not come up to my door? And you can tell he's a good guy.
Yeah.
And she gets out of the car, and the cop sees Brian Krakow in the tree reading. And he's like, hey, are you her friend? He's like, yeah. And he goes, well, act like it, get down here. And so the cop leaves, and Brian wants to know what happened. She doesn't say anything really, but she kind of starts saying, she was like, some guys were hitting on us. And he was like how? He was like guys. Like, no, that's not how guys. That's like creeps. You should have, like assholes. They were really, ugh.
Yeah. The one guy was really creepy. At least the other one was like, let's go, but didn't really stop anything.
Yeah. So, so we've picked a theme for the yearbook. That's what he's like. And then she's like, uh-huh. And then she goes, hey, who told you I like Jordan Catalano? He's nobody. So do you? And they're walking around, and they kind of walk around the corner from the house. For some reason, just walking. I don't know why, but they're walking around the corner, and they see her father talking to some woman who's crying. And that's when like REM starts playing Everybody Hurts.
Yeah.
It's perfect, actually.
Perfect.
Angela runs away. She stumbles because she's in Rayanne's shoes. And that's when Brian tells her, it's the year 2000. That's the theme. And she's like, uh-huh. And she turns around and says, that's a pathetic theme. Before she leaves, he's like, yeah, I know. And I love the shot, the iconic shot of them across the street from each other. Like there's this world divided type of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And she's got that just kind of awkward stance. Like her leg is kind of bent kind of weird.
Yeah.
Just, oh.
It's, it's from the opening credits. They use a lot of pretty much the entire opening credits is the entire pilot.
Yeah.
She ends up going upstairs. REM's still playing, and she's getting cleaned up. A lot happened that night, even though it doesn't seem like a lot happened, but a lot happened.
Yeah.
And she ends up going in to see her mom. She says, what happened to spending a night at Rayanne's? And Angela just stands there. And I know these situations when you finally start saying something to your parents and you start crying in the middle of it. Like when I came out to my dad and to my mom eventually, you just start talking and then you start crying.
Yeah.
Because you feel this bit of shame at the way you've behaved, or how you've held something back or whatever. And you just kind of like, you need to get it out, and you're afraid of how they're going to react.
Yeah.
And she starts telling her that she's really sorry about her hair and everything. And she kind of mentions that how her mom was adopted, and at one point she was looking for her real parents, like, because we're all looking for that, our real parents. Like, in a way, yeah, because you don't feel connected to them at some point,
Yeah.
So yeah, she's crying, and she has that famous Claire Danes cry. She has the best ugly cry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah, that ugly cry. It's so good.
That the chin, the tremble of the chin, and they just like, oh my God, all the pain in her face. It's perfect. And she goes and she falls into her mom's arms, and the mom's like, don't worry about your hair, it'll grow out. And it really doesn't look that bad.
That bad.
That was her attempt at bending that fence, And Angela says, I fell asleep in her arms. I must have been really tired.
Yeah. I love this scene. I know.
I
really, really love this scene because the whole episode, it's like her and her mom are just at each other's throats. And then I think after seeing stumbling upon her dad, I think she kind of realizes oh shit, my mom is also a human and has her own shit, and it's kind of that whole realization of I've had a shitty night. now I kind of know this information and I feel bad for my mom. And it's just like all culminates in that moment. It's just like, oh, I love it.
You're like, her mom's a strong person. Maybe her mom knows, maybe she doesn't. You don't know, but she's like, I need to say I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Take that a little bit of this burden off my mom, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's just that feeling, that comfort of falling asleep in your parents' arms.
Mm-hmm.
Just, oh man, I miss that. That's such a safe place,
Yeah.
So the next day at school, Jordan sees her and he's like, hey, you out on bail? And she's like, yeah. And she asks about his weekend. He's like, it sucked. And then he leaves. But I'm like, he noticed her.
Yeah. He made a little joke. Good job, Jordan.
I know. He tried. And so, she hears a group of people approaching, and Rayanne, someone says, Rayanne, you're so full of it. And then Rayanne and Ricky Roque show up with all these people saying, this is what happened. These guys try to get them and the other night and everything. And Angela, didn't we have a time? We had a time, didn't we? And then Angela says, we did. We had a time. And then just fade out on Angela's smiling face. Her new life has begun.
Yeah.
And that's the end of the pilot episode of My So-Called Life. So
good. It still holds up so well.
It really does. It still feels relevant, Sure, people are like, oh, but, the technology. It's like, people watch Stranger Things.
Yeah.
And they're using old school technology in that. It's still relevant. It doesn't matter. That's why I'm saying, like, it doesn't matter what era it takes place in. If it's real, if it's true to form of human nature and whatnot, you're going to relate to it, and this is so well written. And the cool thing is they came out with a book for it. Basically there's a book called My So-Called Life, and it's adapted by Catherine Clark. And it's basically the entire first season. Like, each chapter is I have them right here. Each chapter is an episode. And then after the show didn't get renewed, they came out with My So-Called Life Goes On, in which Catherine Clark wrote it again and talked with the creator, Winnie Holzman, and decided to, hey, here's some ideas of the direction I was going to go with the show. I didn't really care for it because I was like, oh, come on, you could have wrapped some stuff up. But they didn't. Wow. It still felt like it would have kept going, like a second season. It felt like a second season type of thing. But I guess it ended how it needed to end. Life just, sometimes you don't find out the ending, I know. Ugh. I know, that's kind of depressing. Sometimes it doesn't work out that way, guys. Sorry.
Yeah. Life sucks. Move on.
Yeah. We've been, talking here for almost an hour and a half, and I promise you guys, not every episode's going to be this long. Hopefully, I intend them all to at least be under an hour. But this was, you got a lot of stuff you had to get out of the way. I wanted to give you as much details as possible because I wanted you, in case you haven't ever seen the show, or if you just forgot some things, you haven't rewatched it in a while, to be reintroduced. It's more explanatory to give you everything from the beginning. And I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you will listen to some more, because we're going to go through all 19 episodes of this show. And I think it'll be a fun time. We'll have some good memories floating back to us from, oh my gosh, yesteryear.
Mm-hmm. God, 30 it was 20 years ago?
No, 28 years ago this year.
Jesus.
So, yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah. Thank you again, Kay, for joining me on this journey of watching My So-Called Life again.
Oh, there you are.
I know. What the hell? Anyway.
Right at a pivotal moment.
Well, it's okay. So, yeah, we'll go through all these things and, revisit old school memories of times that were happening, maybe related to some things that were happening in our lives at that time, or even now, whatever. And, hopefully you'll join us for the ride, and make sure you listen to Fuck My Work Life. And if you want to go back and listen to Dustin Can Read and Watch, do that too. The Rewatch Recap was brought to you by me, Dustin Holden. You can find the show on Instagram at The Rewatch Recap, or you can find me on TikTok at Dustin_Holden. Find me there for my weird-ass sense of humor, amongst other silly things related to my other show, Dustin Can Read and Watch. Speaking of which, my email is the same as the other show. You can reach me at dustincanreadpod@gmail.com. So yes. Until next time, this is Dustin. And this is Kay.
And I'm Kay.
That's me. And we'll see you next time on the Rewatch Recap. Bye-bye.
Bye.